Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Oh my goodness, it's so incredibly wonderful to be here with all of you. So many of you were sharing your gratitude to Cantor, to me, to Moreh Andre. I just have to say, we are in awe of you. We are inspired by you, are extraordinary, and we feel so blessed to have this place on your journey as you continue to grow and as you've joined the Jewish family this week. We feel so incredibly grateful. Blessed to be with all of you here in the sanctuary and also with those of you online. I've mentioned many of you already, but I think since I last mentioned some, I noticed that we have Jeanne, or Jeannie, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name, Antoinette, Connie, Hannah, and Susan, and perhaps there's others. There were so many people commenting, so forgive me if I missed you, but know that for all of you who are joining us online from Tennessee to New Mexico, Arizona, California, and elsewhere, know that your presence is felt with us here in the sanctuary today, and that we are blessed by you as well. Last Shabbat, I spoke about kashrut and about milk and meat. And I shared some of the different academic ideas surrounding how that came to be perhaps in the Torah and how that came to be interpreted by the rabbis. And I had someone, a leader of the congregation, come up to me after Shabbat and said, I've always separated milk and meat, but Rabbi, after hearing what you said, I'm not so sure about that anymore. And I thought to myself, well, that's not exactly what I was going for. And I just want to share a little bit of context and then connect it to what we're doing today. So for me, being able to look at academic literature that challenges or brings us to greater understanding of perhaps how the Torah came to be in our possession, how the rabbis came to interpret it, the context of the time that these texts and literature emerged, and the context of the times of the events that they're described, helps us more deeply understand the roots of Torah. And I want you to understand that as a conservative Jew who is proud to investigate history, and proud to be engaged with the idea that understanding that the Bible and the Torah may have been impacted by the humans who interacted it at the time of its emergence, as well as by the divine, is not something that bothers me at all. In fact, for me, one of the most beautiful things about the Torah, about the Tanakh, is the way in which sometimes it seems like it might contradict each other because there are multiple voices and perspectives that are present within it. And it's also one of the most beautiful things about the rabbinic literature, that the rabbis on every page of the Talmud have arguments with each other. They have different interpretations of the same text. They behave in different ways. In fact, the most authoritative law code of all the law codes in Judaism, the Shulchan Aruch, is precisely so authoritative because at the time of its publishing, it says, the law for Ashkenazim is this, and the law for Sephardim is that. And that way everyone could say, I hold by this, even though they practice differently, instead of the other law codes, which were in conflict with each other. And that the fact that the different things that I mentioned concerning the origins of how we came to observe kashrut may have reflected the experience of the humans at the time who were experiencing and receiving Torah, and that it was affirmed through the different cultures that they were exposed to, for me doesn't diminish in any way the divine element of that. In fact, all the more so divine that God was able to bring people together in precisely the right way and precisely the right time to create and to give us the gift that we have of Torah in the 5 books of Moses, of Torah in the Tanakh, of Torah in the entire rabbinic literature, and all of the Torah that we continue to bring in this world as we continue to learn and explore and unfold and discover new readings and interpretations that are relevant to us today. And that one of the ways that God works in the world is through people. It's like the story about the one who dies after hearing a news report and having a boat come by and all these other things where they could have been protected and escaped, but they die in a flood saying, God will come and save me. And in heaven they say, God says, what are you doing here? I sent you this, I sent you that. You had all these different ways in order to not be in this situation, right? Sometimes we see the world as functioning in a natural way, but the truth is everything that we experience is miraculous. And the blessing that having, Joel, you call me on that precise day, at that precise time, and being able to connect with you and Richard with you, and Dave with you, and then soon all of the others who have come to Judaism this week, all of the others who are with us online, who are with us in person, celebrating with your friends, being able to go with Moreh, Andre, and travel to Sholo, all of that happened not because of our own free will only, but also because the divine merited to guide us on that path and to guide us to that moment so that we would be able to interact with each other and to be able to have moments of profound meaning on our journeys. You know, almost every moment of profound meaning and impact in our life starts with something that seems inconsequential, something that seems like a coincidence, something that seems random. And so often we don't see the divine in it. It's like the guy who's desperate for a parking spot and prays to God, God, if you give me a parking spot right now so I'm not late, so I get to this important meeting, God, I will give more tzedakah, God. I will give more of I will volunteer more. I will attend shul more regularly. I will come to the synagogue. And miraculously, the heavens open, a light shines down, and a spot clears right exactly where this person needs to be. And they look at the heavens and say, never mind, God, I got this. Right? This is the way that we walk in the world all the time. But the truth is that God guides our path and helps us find each other. And the fact that we can see human hands in our lives and our choices and also in the texts and traditions that animate us doesn't make them any less godly and any less divine. Richard, I just want to express my appreciation and gratitude and awe for you on this journey. I know that you have faced so much challenge, so much, unfortunately, hatred and pain, and that you have persevered and made it to this day, and it is extraordinary, and we feel so blessed to be with you, and I'm so grateful to share my bima with you and invite you to share some words of Torah and reflection with our community. Moreh Richard Cortes, thank you.
Shalom, everybody. Well, I can say this today, Rabbi, we didn't call each other or email each other in this message that he just gave that really ties in beautiful what I want to hopefully share with all of you here today. Now, because I want to be welcomed back, I'm going to make this very short. I definitely want to come back. So many of my audience understands that my teachings usually are very, very short, right? But I won't do that to you because I love you, and I'm new in the family. But when Rabbi asked me to share Drash, I thought to myself, wow, why Parasha Mishpatim? Out of all the parashas, why this one? It's like probably one of the most difficult parashah to share with an audience that I have never met in my life before. And yet here it is. It's one of the most difficult. It's almost like going to the book of Vayikra. So it's judgment. It's, we don't want to hear this. It's condemnation, or it appears that way anyways. So, but this is what the lot fell in Mishpatim. So I want to share not condemnation, but rather I want to share delight in Mishpatim. How about that for a change? Because the idea is that we're supposed to be vehicles and vessels of the light. And I will tell you right now, I'm standing here today because of each and one of you. Why Israel? Such a small state, about the size of New Jersey. There's Tahiti, there's Hawaii, there's so many other places. Bahamas, by the way, is absolutely gorgeous. But why Israel? Why the Jewish people? Mishpatim, it's one of the reasons why I'm standing here today with you, believe it or not. So if you don't mind, I know that I'm not used to this audience. The audience that I'm dealing with usually are people who are coming out of a system of religion, who have very, very little understanding of Torah. So if I'm boring you with this, it's okay. It won't take long. But I do want to go a little bit deep in this parasha today of Mishpatim to kind of elaborate what Rabbi was saying. And it's interesting that when you look at Mishpatim, in the simple gematria, it gives us a remes that is absolutely beautiful. In the simple gematria for the word Mishpatim, it's 439. And 439 gives us the Hebrew word tochecha. And it literally means to reprove, to teach, to make you better. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us mishpatins for the purpose not to condemn you, but rather for the purposes of making you better, to reprove you so that you can be the best light in the galut, in the exile. And we're going to see kind of how this plays out. I want to actually feed off of what Rabbi said, because in Deuteronomy 16:18 says, you shall appoint for yourself judges and officers in all your towns, which the Lord your God is giving you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment, it says. And you have to appreciate the language in Hebrew. It says, shotim v'shoterim titen lecha. The very opening of this. And I just love it because this passage in Deuteronomy 16:18 is actually symmetrical with Mishnah Tractate Avot 1:6. And the Mishnah Tractate Avot 1:6 tells us that the person is to appoint a teacher for himself. But another thing that the Mishnah in that same Mishnah shares is that you are to make a friend and you are to what? Judge favorably. Now, we can conclude this right now and go eat. But I was told that I have to speak a little bit longer. So I'll do that. So, the Tanakhic rabbis had a famous saying that went along this way. All Israel is accountable to each other. And I want to let you know that you have a beautiful culture. Embrace it. Become the best Jew that you can. The Refteria says traditions is what keep us together, right? But it is the truth. It is the traditions that binds us, that glues us together, and makes us a unique people on the face of the earth. So please be encouraged. Don't just stop with keva, do kevana. With every mitzvot, with every tradition, continue to do this. As they are to appoint for themselves judges and officers, this would have been a reflection of the nation and the leadership as well. In other words, the judges and officers are essentially accountable to the people, and the people are also accountable to the judges and the officers. And that brings a safe haven for the nation that is absolutely beautiful. And the Mishnah, again, goes on to saying that you are to, first of all, and it says appoint. And here we have the same word, titen lecha. Now, what's so striking about this is that it's actually in singular. Meaning for every individual person, even though we're a collective nation, we are all responsible for having that accountability in those teachers. We come from a system that really ignores that completely. And I can tell you right now, it is a recipe for disaster. If it was so great, I wouldn't be here. Let's put it that way. So the traditions are good. The traditions are amazing. So, shotim v'shoterim titen lecha. And it says, literally, you have to point for yourself, which is, again, symmetrical with the Mishnah Tractate Avot 1:6, which is absolutely beautiful. In Lukidei Moharan, it states this. On an individual level, each person can constantly elevate his sphere of heaven by practicing hitbodedut. And hitbodedut is a practice where we go and we spend time with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Alone, not with your children, not with your wife, just you and the Creator. In order to have relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the divine, you actually have to spend time with Him. It's just no different than human beings. If we want to build relationship, we have to invest time on each other. It says during the daily private conversation with God, he should judge and evaluate every one of his actions, past and present. And this is the beautiful thing about this. You don't have to tell your neighbor or your friend, hey, I did this wrong. This is totally confidential between you and the divine. The person who engages in self-judgment, reproof, need not to fear anything. Why? Because he is actually being accountable to the Creator. And he is examining himself or herself. And that's the general idea. Now, if we do this collectively, just think about collectively how amazing that will be. Now, I must admit, one of the things that drew me to Judaism, again, is that I love the accountability. I love the fact that we have rabbis, we have thousands of years of history, we have Shulchan Aruch, we got Mishneh Torah, we have the Talmud, we have the Mishnah, we have so much literature to enrich our lives. And I want to encourage each and one of you to please treasure it. It's absolutely beautiful. It will keep you safe. So Shoftim begins with reproving ourselves. We don't have to go around telling people, by the way, what you're doing is completely, totally wrong. It starts with us. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is commanding us to do, is just check ourselves. It's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu declaring that you are worth more and can do better. And this is what's the beauty of Judaism. It is about purifying the world by infusing it with holiness, but here's another key and a caveat: righteous justice. As I walk into the shul, I see a sign up here. It says, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. For out of Zion will go forth the Torah. What is the role of the people of Israel? The role of the people of Israel, believe it or not, of the Jew, is not necessarily to make good movies in Hollywood. Although that's great, don't get me wrong. It's not just to be the best doctors, although we sure need them too. It's not to be the best technicians in the tech industry, although that is awesome as well. Don't get me wrong, these are all beautiful things. But what is the role of the Jew, technically? To be an or halegoim, a light to the nations. I am here today because I am seeking that light. Not because you make great movies, although I love the entertainment. But what I love the most is that you bring something in essence to the world that is needed right now. If we look at the world around us, there's so much chaos. There's so much injustice. You have the answer in your holy books, in your literature. And I want to encourage, this is a word of encouragement, because I'm here to hold hands with you. Because I want to be a part of this. Because I want to be a part of this. So let's go to Deuteronomy 17:11. This is how we do it. According to the terms of the law which they teach you, and according to the verdict which they tell you, you shall do. You shall not turn aside from the word which they declare to you to the right or to the left. Now, who is the words that we're supposed to follow in here? If you go a verse prior to that, I didn't put everything because, again, I want to be welcome. But if you go a verse prior to this, it says to the Kohanim, to the Leviim, and to the Shoftim. The judges, the Levites, the priests, these are the verdicts that they're going to teach you, it says. You guys are very, very blessed to have such a great rabbi in Moreh here. There has a passion. I can see the passion that he has for people. I see the passion that he has for the traditions of our elders. And it is a very rare to find today. Embrace it. According to the terms of the law which they teach you, it says literally in Hebrew, Al pi haTorah asher yorucha. And literally, if you were to translate that literally into English, is according to the mouth of the Torah that they teach you. And what does this bring us to? The Torah sheba'al peh, which is the oral Torah. This is why it's so important, so necessary to have it. So as Israel is prepared to be a civilized nation in this parasha, as they are no longer going to be Bedouins, just kind of floating through the Negev, right? They're going to be established in their land. There will be courts, justice. There will be case law. There will be a formal nation, essentially. And where are they going to do this? In the land promised to our forefathers, the Blessed Mary, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Where is the light in Jerusalem? Which is why we gather here every week. We see evidence of this, of following law, of following oral Torah, of following leaders, of following teachers, rabbis, in a very, very, very vivid way with King Solomon. It says in the Tanakh that the fame of King Solomon reached to the ends of the earth. How? Because of the verdicts that he did. Everybody in the world was seeking the wisdom of Solomon. And what was it so great about Solomon that he was so wise? Where it says that a part of this portion is that a king has to have a copy of the Torah. And he is to learn how to what? Execute righteous judgment. And I'm going to conclude with the words in here where it says, whatever they tell you, you shall not go to the right or to the left. Now, at a Parshat level, that appears that it's very clear. If they tell you a judgment, don't deviate left and don't deviate right. But I would like to share a premise in this. And Rabbi Nachman shares this. Deviating to the right or to the left refers to the extremes a person can adopt in his spiritual devotions. Meaning, Rabbi Nachman followers to avoid being overly lenient, but also avoid being overly stringent. What are we talking in here? We're talking balance. Don't be so lenient that you know you're losing your identity, but don't be so stringent that you're pushing people away. You see, and this is what's the beauty of this. It's when we receive the Torah, and again, it came from the Levim, it came from the Kohanim, it came from the Shoftim. We got different sources. Let's look at the sources that our beloved sages have given us. Let's stay within the parameters, the fences of the Torah, as Avot chapter 1:1 says. And with that, we can maintain an identity that is healthy, and we can maintain a light for the world as well. This actually is a reflection of the two prominent rabbis during the Second Temple period. There was Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shammai. Rabbi Hillel was known as more lenient. Rabbi Shammai was known as more stringent. And if we can glean from both, we can come up with a healthy balance in the middle. So the parasha concludes, or rather continues here, saying that Hashem will raise up a prophet for the people of Israel like Moses in this portion. Why? We always need that leadership. You always need your Moreh. You always need your rabbis. This is extremely important. Deuteronomy 18:15 says, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me among you. From your countrymen you shall listen to him. Who was this prophet? Joshua. If we go, for instance, to Deuteronomy chapter 34, it states that Moshe lay hands on it, and the spirit that was upon Moshe was literally transferred to Joshua. Joshua chapter 1, the same thing. We read that Joshua now is the one who's going to be leading the people into the promise. And I'm going to conclude now. I think I said that 3 times. But I really mean it this time. It's no coincidence that this portion, Shoftim, comes immediately preceding what month? The month of Elul. Now, there's so much in the month of Elul. I'm not going to sit here and talk about all of that right now, so don't worry. But there is something very, very striking about the month of Elul and coming into the Parashat Shoftim. By the way, we have a Sefer in the Tanakh that is called what? Shoftim. And what does that Sefer teaches us? That when we don't have the leadership, when we don't have the traditions, everybody does what is right in their own eyes. And the nation, what? Loses its identity. I think it's no coincidence that we actually have a Sefer and a Parashah. They are literally antithesis to one another. So it's beautiful. Elul is a sacred time, they say. The sages say that Elul is known as Yemei Ratzon. And it is the days where we seek favor. As a matter of fact, this is the rabbis teach that at this time, the king is on the field, right? I'm not going to get into all that teaching right now, but what is the point? The quick synopsis. You have access to the king when normally you wouldn't. He is accessible right now. Our sages teach that this is the time in the period where the air is infused with chesed, mercy. We are 30 days out from Rosh Hashanah, 40 days out from Yom Kippur. And what is the time right now? The time is to do self-reflection. Shoftim v'soterim titen lecha. Each and one of you, look within yourself. Find somebody. By the way, the idea with the Mishnah is that you will make a friend, right? And that friend, according to the Gemara, the purpose for that was so that that friend can keep you accountable. In a good way. You asking for this, by the way. You're saying, hey, by the way, I want to start adopting more mitzvot. I want to start learning more. And I want to start changing my way. Like, could you keep me accountable? And that was the purpose of the Shoftim v'Shoterim. The Shoftim creates the law. The Shoterim were the ones to enforce it. It worked beautifully together to keep each and one of them accountable to our new desire, our new walk. So the rabbi explained that the 40 days during which Moshe ascended on high to receive the second set of tablets began on the first day of Elul. We just did Elul on Thursday night. So according to the tradition says that this is when Rabbeinu Moshe went up to the mountain. Why? Because the tablets were shattered. Why? Because of the sin of the golden calf. And it's funny that you mentioned that earlier because that's one of the things that the Torah says, do not make for yourself, lecha, singular. Do not make any wooden images. Do not create any images in your mind and all these different things. So this makes the perfect time to focus on repairing our relationship with God and with each other. And how do we do this? How can we repair our relationship with one another and with Hashem himself, Adonai? By feeding of the same well of the oral Torah and the written Torah. If we're looking at the same thing, and we are also judging and balance. Remember, do not turn to the left or to the right. Don't be so stringent and don't be so loose. By completing this, I will promise you that you will find an amazing, amazing bond like never before. And I want to encourage you to continue to do this. I want to thank everybody for having us in here today. It is a very, very honor to be here. I was not expecting this. Rabbi gave me this like yesterday.
That's not exactly true. But thank you for sharing such meaningful words.
Thank you.
Thank you for continuing to lead this amazing community and share the Torah. You know, you mentioned the Mishnah, Aseh lecha rav ukneh lecha chaver. I'm glad that your community has found a Rav, and I'm glad that you have found a friend, and that we have found a friend and teacher in you as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.